So we have a Files panel over here on the right-hand side, and just like any other Adobe program, you can go to the Window menu and you can see a lot of different panels that you can work with while you're in Dreamweaver. Right now, I'm going to actually ignore the Files panel here, and I'm going to just get a file open in Dreamweaver without going through the menu. I'm just going to use the drag and drop method here. So I'm going to go to a folder that I already have that has some HTML files that I've already created, and I want to get this file called practice open in Dreamweaver. I'm just going to drag and drop because if you just double click it, it opens in Chrome, and we don't want to open it in Notepad either. We want it to open in Dreamweaver. So I'm just going to drag and drop. So when you first get into Dreamweaver, I'm in the standard workspace. So workspaces are no different than they are in the other Adobe programs. There are different views. Right now there's only two, developer and standard, and we talked about that in a previous video. So let's talk about the different views here. So we have a code view, which is like looking at Notepad. So you can see here all of your code, and you can actually code in here and it will actually take effect in the HTML file. As a beginner, you can do the split mode, which shows you basically what it would look like in the browser, and then what the Notepad or the coding part would look like, so you can see both screens at once. And you can also change the split to vertical if you don't like the horizontal view. If you go to the view menu and go to split, you can change it to split vertically. And that's just, again, personal preference, however you want to do it. Then we have what's called the design mode. And the design mode is kind of like a word processor. It hides the code from you so you might not get intimidated. But the problem is that the interface isn't quite set up the way that we want it. We need some other panels available to make this a little bit easier to use. Before we move on to that, we also have the design has what's called a live view as well. In the live view, you're not going to notice a whole lot of difference here. The live view will let you actually click on your hyperlinks, or if there are rollover effects done with CSS. I don't like working in the live view. I like to stay in the design view. So I'm just going to stay in this here. Now I'm going to turn on a couple more panels or windows. I'm going to go to the window menu and I'm going to turn on properties, which is a very useful panel. And I'm going to dock this properties panel at the bottom of my Dreamweaver. So we're just waiting for that blue line and then it will snap into place. The other thing we're going to want is our standard toolbar up here. So we've got our main menu bar, but I'm going to recommend that you go to the window and turn on your toolbars. So we have standard. I'm going to turn that one on. Now, for whatever reason, it's kind of floating up here, and now I can't see my my menu bar, so I'm going to grab it. You grab on the left-hand side of the toolbar, and then you can bring it down, and you can try to get it to snap into place. It takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it to snap in. There we go. And this is another panel that, and you can dock these wherever you want. If you want this one below here, I think you can also group them together. I don't know. So this is our, which one was that? That one is the standard. So what this gives you the ability to do, the properties panel is the one that's most useful. So down here we have some things that we can change about our web page. And let's ignore all this stuff over here. It can be a little intimidating. You can also just click these little double right arrows to collapse, so you have a little bit more workspace here. So we're going to learn a lot about what's going on in this window eventually, but I just want to show you some simple things that can happen here. I'm going to go back to the split, and I'm going to use my properties panel. So notice in the properties panel we have HTML and CSS. I'm going to recommend right now that you stay in HTML. So if I work on the left-hand side here or in the actual design view, I'm just going to grab a couple of things here. And what it does, whatever I select here, it shows me the corresponding thing in the code view because I'm in the split. So if I go in here, and this is kind of like Microsoft Word, if I bold something, it'll bold it in the on the left-hand side in our design view, and then it shows you here the code that it wrote to make that bold. So that code is the word strong. Okay, so if I grab something else here and I choose to italicize something, you can see that the code is EM, and the EM code is for emphasis, which is the HTML5 version of the I tag, which used to be italics. And so some of the older codes, like B for bold, is now, they use different coding words for some of the newer features in HTML version 5. So some other things that you can do here: bulleted lists, we have unordered lists. So these are terms and features that we learned to code through Notepad that you're familiar with already. If I select this, this tells me here that this is a paragraph, obviously, but I can also change the format. So right now it's a P tag. If I go in here, and you don't even have to select anything. If your cursor is in the line and you go in here and you select a heading 1, it will rewrite the code. So notice what it did here. It wrote H1 instead of, I'm going to undo that so you can see it. Right before I changed it, it was a P tag. So your cursor, you don't even have to select the text. As long as it's in that line of text in the design view, you can change the format to, say, for example, an H1. Some other easy things that you can do, and again, it's rewriting code for you. You can see right now my body tag is telling me I have black text and a background color of green. If I want to change that, that's done under page properties. So it doesn't matter where your cursor is, you go into page properties. We're going to stick with HTML here, and you can see that we have our color pickers here. So if I decide, I want a different color, I can choose it, and it's going to write that code for me as well. So you have to actually click away from it. It's a little bit weird. So there's no OK button here. So once you pick it with the color picker, then you go back over here, click OK, and it rewrites your code. Now, this is writing hexadecimal color code. We'll talk about what that means in another video, so don't worry about that. So again, if I wanted to change my text color to something else, I'm going to go back to page properties. Again, we want to change the appearance through HTML at this point, not through CSS. And I'm going to change my text color. I'll just change it to white, click OK. And again, it rewrites the code for you. And again, this is what's called hexadecimal color code. And we'll learn more about that again, as I said a minute ago. All right, so now if I've made these changes and I want to save these changes, this tells me right here, there's an asterisk indicating that the document hasn't been saved. So if I want to keep these changes, I would do a Control S. I'm just going to do a file save as. I'm just going to call it practice 2 because I want to leave my original one intact. By default, it'll save to the location where the file was opened from. So I'm just going to hit save. So now if I go to my folder and I want to see what does this look like in the browser directly and not in Dreamweaver, I can do this and it opens up a browser tab and shows me my updated code. Another thing that you can do from Dreamweaver, this is another thing that I would recommend that you set up. Under the File menu, you have an option to where am I here? Sorry. Where is it? There's usually an option for preview in browser. Why am I not seeing it? Real-time preview. There we go. They changed it in this version of Dreamweaver. It used to just be called preview. So we have, it's telling me here that there's a shortcut set up for Internet Explorer, which is a keyboard shortcut of F12. I prefer Chrome, so I'm going to go in here and edit my browser list, and I'm going to change Chrome to my primary browser, and that's going to assign an F12 keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to hit apply. So now, after I do that, when I press F12 from Dreamweaver directly, it's going to load the page in my browser, in this case Chrome, because I made it my primary browser.